No matter what, people will commit to misunderstanding you. What's most important is your commitment to understanding yourself. Hello, you guys. My name is Nkirk Madani, known as NK, and welcome back to Misunderstood. You need to do it and do it scared. Today, we are getting very, very vulnerable. We have a lot to talk about, and as I've always mentioned, this podcast is my safest space, and it makes me really proud that I've brought this space to the world, because I know with every single episode, there's at least one person who is touched. There's at least one person who is positively impacted. It makes me really, really proud. You need to do it and do it scared applies to so many things in life. I'm going to get very deep and talk about a lot of things that are directly happening in my life right now, but I'm also going to expand and talk about a lot of ways this can apply. This mantra can apply to literally every single thing in your life that you want to do, but you are scared. A lot of people think that we need to have all the pieces together in order to make a move, and that is not true. If you believe that you need to wait until all the pieces are put together, quite frankly, you will never make it to your destination. You will never get to where you want to go. Am I already getting emotional? And I haven't even talked about, okay, this is how we're starting. Strap in. This is going to be a very raw, very off the cuff episode. There are things I wrote down, but transparently, I wrote all of those things down before my big life event happened. So we're going to just talk. We're going to just talk and yap and get all of this out of my system and vent. But before we get into this episode, take some time right now to rate this show, Misunderstood, 5 stars. Misunderstood, it's a very important piece of work. Misunderstood makes not only myself, but so many other people feel seen and heard. The pillar of misunderstood, the biggest pillar, is being committed to understanding yourself. And that is through every single stage of your life. And at some point, it felt like my mission to finally speak up and speak out about a lot of things in my life in order to help someone else. I see the back end. I see how many people have downloaded this podcast. And honestly, that alone will make me cry. Y'all, I really hope that we can get through this episode. We're going to get through it. It's just going to take some time. Okay? I didn't think I would be this emotional. I just didn't think it was going to be this early into the episode. So bear with me. All that to say, if this podcast has positively impacted you in any way, please, if you have not already, rate this show, Misunderstood, 5 stars on both Apple and Spotify. Let's get these numbers up. This is a show that is worth listening to, and I believe that in my heart. But it's not just me believing this with what I put out. So many people message me, email me, DM me, telling me that they're so happy this podcast exists, which is the reason I keep on going. Please take some time, if you have not already, to rate Misunderstood 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Thank you so much. So I just want to set the scene first and foremost. This is episode 60 of Misunderstood. That's pretty cool. We are in uncharted territory, officially. This is the first episode that I'm recording after having surgery. If you're watching on video, you can see that I have my crutches right next to me. Your girl had knee surgery 4 days ago, and I have so many emotions surrounding that. I've talked to you guys very candidly about my injury that happened last June 2025. I was playing frisbee with some friends. I jumped for the frisbee. I landed weird. It felt weird. I kept on playing because although it felt weird, I wasn't at the point where I literally couldn't walk. So I just kept on playing, thinking that I was fine. And I wasn't fine. And that very day, I got home and my knee was a balloon. It was so swollen. Mind you, to add insult to injury, this is the same exact knee that I got surgery on when I was 16. And I will never forget that day. I panicked. I panicked because I just thought history was repeating itself. I thought that I hurt myself to that level again. My world came crashing down, especially for someone as active as me. I was in the middle of my journey of running and racing, to qualify for the New York City Marathon, which is this year, by the way. It felt like the shittiest timing in the world. I could not walk for 1 week. Every single task felt so hard. I had never felt so isolated and so alone and so scared in my life. 2 MRIs later, a lot of angry phone calls to insurance later, a lot of spiraling and thinking that I couldn't run again later. I finally found some peace when I found insurance, good insurance that I could afford. I started doing physical therapy, and I really did think that with those steps, I wouldn't have to do surgery, but then I got a second opinion from a very good orthopedic surgeon. Their job is to deliver information with care, of course, but their job is also to tell it to you straight. And he essentially said, if you want to be able to run again to the level that you used to, you need surgery. Physical therapy alone will not fix the problem in your knee. I remember walking out of the office that day. I was so numb. I felt like I didn't even have any emotion because I was just shocked and scared, knowing that I will have to undergo another surgery on the same knee. So all January, as I prepped, knowing that I was going to have a surgery, my anxiety was through the roof. And I definitely kept that very under wraps. I only told a few people that I was having surgery. Some of my close friends, a few family members, that's it. And all the while I went through January, getting increasingly more anxious and scared. Also, a lot of the anxiety came from the surgeon being very honest and saying that they don't know exactly the extent of the injury until they go in. Here I was thinking that MRIs will give you the full picture, and they don't. So I was going under surgery, not knowing exactly the extent of what was wrong. Not knowing the extent of what was wrong is very, very scary. He literally said that you could have either had a full meniscus repair, which would mean that I would be in a full leg brace for at least 6 weeks, or a partial meniscectomy, which is significantly less recovery time. But not knowing what exactly my outcome would be before going under anesthesia is actually the scariest thing you could ever imagine. But I still needed to do it. I needed to do it for myself. I needed to do it for the longevity of my running career, my lifestyle. I felt so held back for the last 9-10 months since I got injured. I needed a true fix, and I really needed to put it behind me, which is why I said yes to surgery. You need to do it, and you need to do it scared. There's so many parts of this process that I still haven't even crossed. I'm only 4 days post surgery, and let me tell you, the pain, the physical pain, but also the mental stress of not being able to do everything on my own like I always do is really hard. I've had to lean on everyone around me, which is a very uncomfortable feeling for me, but that's not a bad thing. This injury is teaching me in real time that I need to let go of control, let go of knowing all the right answers. So it ended up being a partial meniscectomy. They didn't have to take out too much of my meniscus, which is a positive thing. You need your meniscus to run, of course. For people who are runners and who are listening, you probably already know that, but the meniscus, everyone has one. It's a very important part of your knee. My biggest fear was that they would have to take out a lot. But again, I'm not a doctor and I didn't know the extent of it, of course, but the surgeon explained it when I woke up, and again a few days later, and he said that I did a good job. He said that the surgery went really smoothly and it was probably the best outcome I could have had, which is reassuring. So now we look forward, now we move on, and now we heal and recover. I had my very first physical therapy session literally yesterday, 3 days after surgery, which is what the doctor ordered. He said, we want you in PT immediately. I'm also going to be very honest and say that I cried the entire 45 minutes of physical therapy. I could not help it. The pain was almost excruciating. And this is after me taking my prescribed very high level drugs for the pain. Post-surgery pain is unlike most pain. If you've never had surgery, feel lucky for that, because it is not for the weak and it is really, really tough. All throughout the physical therapy session, my PT guy, he's great and he was really encouraging. He also just let me be because he just saw that I was uncontrollably crying and I really just needed a minute. We got through it. It was hard, but we got through it. And that's what I have to keep on telling myself, is that even when it's really, really hard and when I'm physically and emotionally so fed up and upset and mad and frustrated, it's going to be okay. It really will be. I'm telling you guys this story because this is a very important part of my life, being active, being whole, being okay. And it's important to fully get in touch with the root of your emotions and why you feel the way you do. And clearly, I feel very deeply about this because I'm crying on the mic, but it's to drive the point home. It is to really express how there will be so many things that you are so afraid of, but you have to do it anyway. There will be so much beauty in the fear, and you'll see that once you finally do it. Once you finally do the thing that you're so afraid of doing, whether it's going for a new job or having surgery to get over an obstacle that you've been facing for a while, whether it's moving to a new country, a new state, a new city, whether it's telling someone and having a really honest conversation about how you feel about them. There are so many everyday ways that we need to do it, and do it scared. Because let's talk about the flip side. When you don't do the things that scare you, what does that make you? It leaves you stuck. It leaves you sad. And it probably fills you with regret, because fear will limit you. You have so much more to give. You can't let fear hold you back. I believe I heard this on TikTok at some point, but someone said, staying scared will keep you broke. It's that same mentality where if you don't go after the things that light you up, if you don't go after the things that you know you can be, you're never going to unlock that next level in your potential, and you're never going to be the person who you know you can be. I feel like broke is a metaphor here of staying the same, not changing, not growing, not evolving. You can insert anything there, but staying scared and not going after the things that light you up and that challenge you, you're never going to grow. And that is, in my opinion, the biggest regret of life, not pursuing the things that matter to you most. I got this surgery so that I can continue running, because running makes me very happy. I want to race. I want to run the New York City Marathon, and I will. I'm running the New York City Marathon this November, okay? It's happening. I'm qualified. I'm registered. It's happening. We're going to look back on this episode and we're going to remember the pain I feel right now. And I think it'll make the medal that much more sweet. The bounce back will be insane. And I'm really, really, really excited for the journey. But the only way I could have even gotten here is by making that really scary, hard, tough decision of having another knee surgery. I am 31 years old and now I have had 2 knee surgeries. It's kind of crazy, but I'm doing this for my future. I don't want to live in the past. I want to put the past behind me and I want to keep on moving forward. It's a very extreme way, but I needed to do it to be able to do what I love. And I'll choose it every damn time. And I think the other mantra that works very well with this storyline is the journey will not be linear, but it will be worth it. There will be days that I feel good, great even. But there will also be days I already know that I will crash the fuck out. I know that I will be upset and mad and frustrated that I cannot do the things that I used to do before I had the surgery. I already know that we have a very uphill climb ahead of us, but it's still worth it. Being able to say that I am fully healed and I can resume activities that bring me joy, that is worth it. That's worth being scared. That's worth the stress, in my opinion. And you have to weigh that for yourself. And, you know, a lot of people don't think it's worth it. And that's okay. But I'm speaking directly to the people who know deep down it is worth it to go through the pain and the fear and the anxiety to get to where you want to go. It is worth it. Now I want to talk about the idea of getting out of your own way, because that's where it starts. It does start with us. It truly starts and ends with us. Yes, there are other people around us, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but we have to get out of our own way. And I've done that in a lot of ways over the course of time, but specifically In this season of life, I want to talk about how I'm using what's happening with me right now, the state I'm in, this era I'm in with surgery and post-surgery and recovery. I'm using this time to reignite my love for creating and also storytelling. Telling the story of how I got here and how I'm still showing up for myself, even though I'm scared. Also, transparently, yesterday I posted my first video post surgery and I was scared to do it. I think it's important to be honest about that. I was scared to be super vulnerable because let's be clear, it was a very vulnerable thing to film, edit, and post a video of me in my hospital bed, icing and the recovery and all of it. I posted it because I know that someone else is going through this and is probably feeling scared about their journey. And that's my favorite part of creation. That's my favorite part of sharing content, is to help someone else who is quiet and silent. And it's okay to be quiet and silent, but if I have a voice, I'm going to use it. I've always believed in that. When I shared it, I was really scared to share it, but I myself have to remember to get out of my own way. I want to continue to create more than I consume. I feel like I've always been like that, but I really, really need to do that in this time period most of all because I don't want to lose myself and I don't want to get depressed. This is a way I can help myself bypass a depressive episode by creating videos around how I'm feeling and honestly bring light to it, but also bring authenticity into it. As always, sharing what a day in my life really looks like with my crutches and how I keep myself entertained and what things actually look like. I want to get out of my own way and not sulk because there's a lot of things that are shitty about how I feel and there's a lot of really uncomfortable parts of this process, but why not take all of that and do something with it, do something productive with it. The other mindset I want you guys to remember, myself included, is remember who you are. Remember who the fuck you are. I forget who I am. And I think when I forget who I am, that's when I get sad. And that's when I don't think I'm important or special. But on the contrary, I'm pretty fucking cool. And the misunderstanding here is a lot of people will try to humble you and a lot of people will try to talk you down and make you feel like you are wrong or out of line for speaking highly about yourself and having self-respect, self-confidence, which is crazy. But no, you need to remember who you are. Think about all the great things that you embody and you encompass. Right now, yes, one could say that I'm down bad, but this is the same girl who ran 2 half marathons in a 2-month span. Yeah, that's right. Never forget it. When I remember those type of accomplishments, that gives me a lot of strength. It reminds me that, I did all of that after my first surgery, mind you, okay? Life kept on going after something shitty that happened, and life will continue to keep on going after what I'm currently going through. The next topic I want to talk about is not being afraid of the perception. So this is where other people come into the mix. And yes, we can work on our mindset and how we feel about ourselves all day. But of course, there are other people around us and experiencing life alongside with us. That's where it can get a little tricky because there are a lot of people who unfortunately make it their mission to be negative and mean and hateful. And that of course can disrupt with our flow and it can disrupt with how we feel about ourselves. I'm no stranger to this game. I have been through a lot of that in my life. So I think I can actually bring some fruitful conversation to the matter. I have tried to really numb myself to other people. Stick with me because I know that sounds very, very dramatic, but there are a lot of ways that I have had to turn off parts of myself so that I can navigate things, especially as someone who is a very highly emotional person. I am extremely, extremely emotional. That's not a bad thing. However, I have had hard bouts of time trying to regulate my emotions around people. That has been very hard for me most of my life. I definitely have a pretty good grip on it now, but I used to not, which is why I say I have had to numb and turn off a lot of how I think and how I emote around other people just so that I don't get very affected by them. Because here's the thing, I cannot control how people act. The only thing I can control is how I react to them. We know this. So with that in mind, I just decided that I'm not going to be afraid of how other people view me. I know that there are so many people who care about me, who appreciate the light I give and the light that I share. I know that for a fact. So if I know that for a fact, I should not be worried or afraid of the other people who don't like me or who don't want to see me win or who don't appreciate my aura. They're missing out. If anybody is a hater, which I've spoken about this before, but if anyone is a hater in your life, remember, it's because they hate themselves. Happy people don't hate, and hurt people hurt people. So these people who are going out of their way to make you feel bullied or attacked or wrong or whatever, they have some hurt within themselves, which they need to work on their own time, which they should not be projecting onto you, of course. But back to the perception. We all have a degree of feeling a little uncomfortable around how people view us. We all do. A lot of people have just mastered not giving a fuck about what other people think, which is great, which is honestly where I want to get to at some point. That is my goal, to not care about the perception of others fully. And you know what? Let's be honest. I don't think I will personally ever not care outright, but I will actively work on not being afraid of what people think of me because I know how I feel about myself. And as long as that is positive, that is all that really matters. Another saying that I wanted to throw into this conversation as well is pressure creates diamonds. So I wrote this on here specifically because there are a lot of times where I get very, very, very scared about not being able to perform at my best. If I have an off day, if I am not getting as many clients in a specific month or a specific time frame, I get very scared. I get scared that I won't be able to do this job anymore. I get scared that I'm not good enough. I can't cut it. These are the things that I fear. Okay. So I'm just being very honest and very candid about. These are the things I think about almost every day, but I also remember that pressure creates diamonds. This is not true for everybody. I think that this only works with specific personality types, but with me, I have seen, history has proven in my life that every single time that I have been backed into a corner, i.e., I've been stressed about money, I've been stressed about opportunities that I might not be getting, and it feels like life is closing in on me, those are the moments that I shine. Those are the moments that I literally start to get brand collaborations left and right, that people see me in ways that they didn't see me before for some reason. Something just feels like it aligns more when I'm under pressure. But I also realize that when I'm under pressure, I lock the fuck in. I lock in like I've never locked in ever. Because I'm scared. Because I'm scared of something bad happening. I lock in like I've never locked in before. And I think with that in mind, that's why these bigger opportunities do show their face, which is exciting. There are times where I know that I get a little too lax. I know that I get a little complacent. For sure. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but there are seasons as well. I always actually feel like the season of winter is the hardest season for me to have motivation. It's the hardest season for me to continue to do the type of job that I do. I want to go on record and say I'm so thankful that I do work for myself, and I'm so thankful that I have the clients I have. It's nothing about that. But the season of life, and it happens literally every year, this is the season that I find it is really hard to have that motivation. And also with the climate of being in marketing and social media, this is the season that there are less opportunities, which always makes me feel like I'm not doing enough. And it always makes me feel a little scared about what does the future look like, of course. But something about that also makes me lock in, which is why I say pressure creates diamonds. If you've ever felt like you've been backed into a corner, and if you've ever felt like you're scared about your next steps, that's actually the universe telling you you need to lock the fuck in. harder than you've ever locked in before. So many really great opportunities will probably happen very shortly after. This has happened to me so many times, and that's the only reason why I'm able to say that. So if you are that type of personality, I really believe that that will also work for you. I'm going to read these off my phone, but this section, I really wanted to talk about the things that I struggle with, especially with the theme of this episode being you need to do it and do it scared. A lot of people don't talk about the things that they struggle with, and I don't want to shy away from that because that is fully part of this conversation. And these struggles are pretty specific to my line of work. I just want to say that right up top, but you can of course use this in pretty much any facet of life. I believe that they're pretty transferable things. Number one, I struggle with what's too much to share. So I've been on the internet for about 6 years now, which is kind of insane. I love what I do so much, but there's also a lot of times where I have been hurt because I've shared a little too much, because I want to connect with other people, but I realize that there are ways to connect with people that don't mean that I need to sacrifice my privacy or my peace of mind. I also struggle with being authentic versus being closed off. Authenticity is such a buzzword in social media. The public, the audience, they want people to be authentic, which makes sense, and that is a good thing. However, a lot of people can manipulate that authenticity. So then the opposite is being closed off and not sharing a lot about you. But then when you're closed off, then you get incessant questions that honestly are more likely than not a little out of line and things that you should not be asking somebody who you do not know personally, right? So there is such a struggle with that in this realm of social media and putting yourself out there. I struggle with being misunderstood, of course, the backbone of this podcast. The reason why it is named Misunderstood is because I have always struggled with the idea of being misunderstood. I've always struggled with people thinking that they know me, but they sure as fuck don't. They really don't know me. A lot of people don't know me. They know my name. They know of me. They do not know me. Completely different thing. And I've mentioned this on previous episodes of Misunderstood, but as long as you know yourself, that's all that truly matters. However, it's not a comfortable feeling to be misunderstood. It's not comfortable, even though it's part of this whole grand scheme. That doesn't mean that it's comfortable. And I struggle with that. The next one is the cost of fame is exposure. When you think about it, that is absolutely true. The people who are very, very famous, who do very well on social media, who pivot and become a celebrity, that pipeline, they have sacrificed exposure, meaning the more people know about them is the reason why they are in the position they are. That is the truth. And I struggle with that because there are a lot of ways that I want to be seen. I want to be seen and heard and understood. And I want my work and my art in my own right to speak for itself, of course. However, that means exposure in a lot of ways that I don't know if I'm fully comfortable with. And I've regressed a lot in how I share because I've seen a lot of negative things happen to other people, but also to me that are unsettling. I mean, we could talk about parasocial relationships. We could talk about people being so rude and out of line. We can talk about it all, but we're not going to. There are a lot of things that fame will cost you. And I just don't know if I'm ready for that. And that's definitely something I struggle with. And the last one on my list is haters mean you're doing something worthwhile, which is absolutely true. If someone is talking about you, that means that you're doing something noteworthy. You're doing something worth being talked about. And that's where a lot of haters come out of the woodwork, right? So the Grammys were a few weeks ago at this point, and Miss Olivia Dean won her first Grammy, which was so well deserved. And after that, personally, that is the first time I've ever heard anyone say that they do not like this woman. She honestly, in my eyes, can do no wrong, and in so many people's eyes, can do no wrong. However, now she has a whole group of people who do not like her, who are making it their mission to hate on her music, on who she is, which is insane. However, that just means that she's a bigger and bigger star now. She has crossed this threshold that makes her seen in a very big way. I mean, she won a Grammy, so she's obviously a very noteworthy artist and she deserves that. But haters come out of the woodwork when you have made it, truly. When you are worth being talked about, when you have made it, that's when you're going to see haters. But the thing I struggle with is being as sensitive as I am. I struggle with having haters. I struggle when people don't like me, of course. And that's a very normal thing to feel. It's actually not normal to have a bunch of people who don't like you. That's not a normal human experience, okay? So with that said, I struggle with the idea of knowing that the bigger and bigger you become, the more and more people will not like you. That is textbook. We all know this, but it's just something hard to accept. Guys, I needed this. I needed this specific type of episode that clearly is so different than any other episode I've ever made. But I think that's the beauty of this podcast. You will get a lot of different layers of me. I'm not one-dimensional at all. I think that's what gives this podcast some flavor. I want to always come on here exactly how I am. And no matter what state that looks like, that's the thing, all right? I had surgery. That is a part of my life. And it's important for me to be able to freely express that. This space feels safe enough to do so. But as always, I love to use all of my life experiences as they fit to tell a larger story, to connect and to help someone else. This podcast only exists because I know that I would have loved to hear this when I was younger. I'm 31, so I'm still very young, but you know what I mean. There's so many parts of life that a lot of people shy away from, but I run right into. And I think there's something to be said about that. Throwing it back to the beginning, you need to do it. You need to do it scared because you are not helping yourself by staying small. You are not helping yourself by shrinking. You were meant to do the things that light you up, no matter what struggles we face and no matter how hard things might be. Life begins when you decide to not let your fear overrule it. And with that, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Misunderstood. Remember to rate this show 5 stars and follow it wherever you are listening. Join our Geneva group chat. It is always linked in the description of every single podcast episode. Hang out with me on my other socials, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest at NK Madani. And I will talk to you guys in my next one.